Hey you guys, I want to show you a dish today that is a great dip. This is a spinach artichoke dip, but it's completely plant-based. One of my favorite all-time ever dips was the spinach and artichoke dip that was served at a chain restaurant here in the States called California Pizza Kitchen. Actually, they're all over the world, so maybe you've been to one. But before I stopped eating dairy, I used to love that dip so much. And once I stopped, it seemed like no matter where I went, that restaurant or any other, if they had a spinach artichoke dip, I couldn't eat it because of the dairy. So what I did is I took that recipe from California Pizza Kitchen and I veganized it. And today I'm gonna show you how to make it, because nobody is ever gonna know that there's not cheese in this or that there's no milk or dairy products, because it tastes really good. And I have taste tested it with ardent meat eaters, and it got the thumbs up. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to share with you first the ingredients that we're going to use. Then we'll get started with some of the vegetables cooking, and I'll show you how to make the sauce. So today in this dip, I'm using 2 cans of artichoke hearts. I like to get the kind that are not in any sort of oil or marinade, so they're just in water. And then I have a can of coconut milk. I also have some almond milk. So I make my own almond milk, but if you just have a carton or you have it in the refrigerator, whatever kind of almond milk you have, you could also use soy milk or maybe hemp milk, oat milk. You could use whatever alternative milk you choose. I also have some tapioca starch. I use this as a thickener. You could use arrowroot, that is another thickener, or if you just have cornstarch, you could use that. We're only going to use a little bit of it. The seasonings that we're going to use are chili powder, cayenne pepper, and if you wanted to substitute instead of these two, you could use Old Bay seasoning if you have that. You are also going to use a little bit of nutmeg, some smoked paprika, and nutritional yeast. Now I'll talk about nutritional yeast in just a second here. Let's get through the rest of the ingredients. Also salt and pepper, lemon, garlic, onion, frozen spinach. You can use fresh spinach if you'd like. You need to steam it and chop it first. And I have some cashews here. This is actually what's going to give the creaminess to this recipe. And I soaked them for about 4 hours. If you forget to soak them, it's okay. It's still going to be good. The soaking makes them easier to digest. I have some apple cider vinegar and some olive oil. And those are the ingredients. Now, let's talk for 1 second about nutritional yeast, because it actually might not be something that you're familiar with. It is a great ingredient that adds a little bit of a cheesy flavor here. As you can see with this recipe, there's no fake cheese or anything like that. But this, we're going to use about 5 tablespoons of this, and it's going to give a nice cheesy flavor to your ingredients. And what nutritional yeast is, it's a fungus that grows on a plant, and then it's harvested. It also has nutritional value as well, hence the name, nutritional yeast. They're pretty smart naming it. So give it a try. It's pretty easy to find in any store these days. And of course you could order off Amazon as well. So let's take a look at how we're gonna make this dish. So you guys, I know this might seem really basic, but today I wanna show you how to dice an onion. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Just check YouTube, there's probably 1,000 different ways. But what I wanna show you is the way I do it today, and maybe you'll find this useful. It's always good to try different things. So I'm gonna cut off both of the ends of my onion, and I'm going to just remove that skin. Actually, I'm gonna remove that first layer as well. Now, depending on your onion, you may need to remove a couple layers of skin. So how do you know the difference? Well, you can kind of tell in how they feel. Like this is really kind of tough. It's not something you probably want to eat anyways. And this is more smooth. You can kind of actually, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you can tell a difference in the color as well. So sometimes it's just removing one layer. Sometimes it takes removing even 2 or 3. If you get a hold of it right, the whole thing will come off. And you want to make sure if there's any of that little shiny thin membrane that you pull that off as well. Then you're going to cut your onion in half. And you'll see there are 2 sides to the onion. One has this hard little knob and the other side is open. The part that has the little knob, you want to put it towards the hand that's not doing the cutting. So for me, that's my left hand because I'm right-handed. And I'm just going to dry off my hand because I don't want my onion to slip. So you're going to put the flat side down and I'm going to hold it. The first cut I'm going to do is horizontal. So I'm just going to hold it here and I'm going to cut across 3 times. Now I don't want to go through the back here, and I'm going to hold it together, and now I'm going to cut down. And your hands are at this point probably helping to hold it together so it doesn't come apart. And then I'm going to cut this way. I'm going to use this part of my knife as kind of the sweet spot because I'm going to be able to push the hardest and go through. And when I cut, I'm going to kind of come down and go forward a little bit. And you want to make sure that you tuck those fingers out of the way. So you can see I'm getting nice, even dices. And you can come back and cut the end of this. I always throw out that hard little knob. But as you can see, all your pieces are uniform. So give it a try. Give this way of cutting an onion a try. The first thing I'm going to get started is my onion and garlic sauteing, and then we'll make the cashew cream sauce. And I want to start the onions first because I want to make sure that they have some time to, release their flavor and soften. To make the cashew cream, you want to use either a good food processor or a blender. And you're going to want to blend it really well. That is one of the keys to making this taste really good, is to have it really well blended. Depending on what sort of food processor or blender that you have, it could be maybe 5 minutes, but you want a really smooth cream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my soaked cashews, and I'm going to add a cup of coconut milk. Now this is coconut milk that I bought, and you might wonder, is this going to taste like coconut? I find that the higher quality coconut milk tastes less like coconut. So you want to look at the ingredients, because really all you want in here is coconut. You don't want a lot of additives or sugar or anything like that. And when you open your can, you're going to see on top it's solid. So within a can of coconut milk, you kind of have coconut cream up on top. And with a spoon, you want to be careful, because if you just plop it in, the milk's going to go psh, and you're going to be wearing it, and it's going to be all over. So you just kind of want to start down easy with your spoon, and then you can kind of see the liquid part coming. So I want to actually use a combination of both of this. If I were to just use the liquidy part, it would be, too liquidy. And if I were to just use the cream part, it would be too thick. So, I splatted. But if you can see, if you just move your spoon around slowly, you can kind of mix it up at least enough just to get a cup worth of each, the cream part and the more milk part. But since this is coconut milk, this whole can is coconut milk, so you do want to incorporate it a little bit. And in addition to this, we're also going to add about a cup of water, and then we're going to season it with salt and pepper. And then we're just going to let it run for a while, and we'll take a look at the consistency. Depending on the consistency, we might want to add some of that tapioca starch or whatever sort of thickener you're using. That kind of comes into play based on what sort of coconut milk you're using. And you know, in addition to this, if you didn't want to use coconut milk, you could use an alternative milk as well, like almond or soy or whatever. And then you would need to use some of that thickener to make it a little bit creamier sauce. All right. So we're just gonna pour a cup of that in here. I'm gonna pour my water in, give it a dose of salt and pepper. We can always adjust our seasoning too after it blitzes. And then we're gonna put that lid on and just let it go. Probably want to pulse a couple times at first, and then we'll sit back and look at it. While my food processor was going, I did drain and chop my artichokes. So it's just pretty rough chopped. You know, it's not minced or anything. And you want to make sure that you drain and really wring out your frozen spinach. And let's add everything together. The food processor went for about 3.5 minutes. And as you can see, the sauce it's nice and creamy. So the next step is we're just gonna put everything together and let it cook for a little bit. As you can see, the onions are nice and softened here. And to this, we're gonna add the artichoke hearts. And we're just gonna mix those in. We're gonna add the spinach. So you can see it's been well drained and wrung out. There's no liquid in it. And then we're going to add our seasoning. So I have about 5 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, some apple cider vinegar, chili powder, smoked paprika, and I'm just going to add a little bit of nutmeg and a little cayenne pepper. And I'll add the juice of the lemon. This little juicer comes in so handy. It's good for both lemons and limes. And to this, I'll add about 1/2 cup of almond milk. And then I'm going to go ahead and add our cashew cream. Oops, sorry. So you can see how that cashew cream is nice and creamy in there. That's the goal, is you just want to make sure that there's no chunks of the cashew. You want to make sure you blitz it long enough. I cooked this for an additional 10 minutes, and I want to share something with you guys. So I ended up adding a whole additional cup of almond milk to this recipe. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to see sometimes the recipes don't always go exactly as they're printed. Now, I could have easily just redone this video and you would have never known, but the point of me doing these videos is to help you. And sometimes when you go through a recipe, things happen. For example, maybe the brand you use today is different than the brand you use next time you make it, and you'll have a different outcome. Or, maybe, hey, I've been working out my biceps. Maybe I was just able to wring out my spinach more than I have in the past. I don't know, there's different things. The weather can affect it too. So I don't want you to think when you make something and then it doesn't turn out, it's like, oh, I screwed it up, right? We do that a lot, like, oh, I really screwed that up. And maybe it's not really your fault. Maybe you just need to adjust it. Maybe the brands you're using are different than the person who created the recipe. So as you can see, this has a nice creamy texture. This was the texture that I was trying to get. Maybe you like yours a little creamier and you would even add more. I also ended up adding about a teaspoon of salt just to adjust the seasoning to my taste. So you want to be sure that you taste things before you serve them, because maybe you like it a little more lemony, so you might want to add more lemon. Or maybe you think, wow, I've never had that nutritional yeast. That's the best thing I've ever had, and you want to add more of that. So you need to make it towards your taste buds. So I'm going to taste test my final product. I love the creaminess of it, and I love that kick that the cayenne pepper gives it. It's just enough, just a little bit. I didn't go overboard this time. I'm taking my spinach artichoke dip to a game night tonight with some friends, and it came as a special request. They actually requested me to bring this tonight. So I hope you try it out and enjoy it and share it with your friends. Have a beautiful day.